I initially read the script. I thought it was incredibly charming. I thought that there was a lightness to it, but definitely a multi-dimensionalism to Henry that was particularly fascinating. I find the notion of playing someone who is very trapped by circumstance and their upbringing to be very interesting to play as an actor. So the script was incredible, and then of course Matthew Lopez, our director, coming off the back of the success of The Inheritance, was a major draw, and the fact that he wanted me so early on to play this character was definitely one of the aspects involved in choosing to pursue the project. Henry is very much the catalyst, I think, in a lot of ways. 2/3 of the movie is told from Alex's perspective, and a third is told from Henry's. But Alex is a much freer human being, and I think the world he lives in is much more accepting of who he is as a person, whereas this sort of archaic nature of the institution that Henry is born into and has to present himself in every single day means that it's almost impossible for him to be who he is. So the story moves forward in the sense that it isn't as simple as them just loving each other. They are not two normal people, and yeah, there loving someone is complicated, and being who you really are in Henry's world is very complicated. There is very much an enemies to lovers book trope, which I know people love. They're both very principled, I think, in their own beliefs. Really, the enemies, the feeling of them being enemies was really born out of misunderstanding in a lot of ways. They don't realize that they actually share quite a lot in common, and they are very different as people as well. But I think the more time they're sort of forced to spend with each other because of the cake incident, that is really the catalyst of the whole movie. Just the more they realize that they are very good for each other in a lot of ways, and they complement each other in a lot of ways. It's been such a joy working with Taylor, and I really couldn't imagine anyone better suited to play Alex. I think the most important thing in casting Alex was to find someone who could really go tete-a-tete with me and with Henry. This film is a two-hander, and it's all about the chemistry and the banter that you can have between the two of them. He's such a fun-loving person, is such a joy to be around, and so much of the filming process for me is about finding a acting partner who just loves being here as much as I do, and I can't say enough good things about him. Matthew is very unlike any other director I've worked with. He's extremely expressive. He has a very set idea about how he wants to do something, and really it's about you trying to bring up a better idea than what that is, and if you can, he's extremely collaborative, and I think just extremely knowledgeable about the story he wants to tell, which you really like as an actor. You want a director who can guide you and shape your performance in a lot of ways. I think his experience in theatre very much lent to this world that we were making a film about. And apart from anything else, he just likes to have a laugh on set too. He likes to have a lot of fun. There was a lot of laughter on this film, which for me is just always helps me, I think, do my best work. I think this film is unique in its subject matter. I think it feels very timely. I think it feels very current. I think people will feel very represented in it. I think their genre-wise is plenty to like for different audiences. There is so much humor within this movie. There is so much heartbreak within this movie. I think really we have produced a very much a spectrum of real life, whilst having the sort of the fantastical and the romantic within it as well. I think movies that are able to blend real raw humanity, whilst at the same time feeling kind of whimsical and romantic, as I said, are just so watchable, and I feel and I hope we have done that. The characters we have in this movie, I hope, can be totem poles for change, and can act as inspiration, to a lot of young people watching these films. I feel like a lot of young people, marginalized people, will be very seen within this movie. I hope we do them justice. But I hope it is a portrayal of an idealistic image of the US, and I hope it can have a certain resonance with people. Honestly, the the cake dropping scene was probably one of the most fun scenes to film. It was just such a couple days. It was first of all, I just love being with the rest of the cast. You know, it's mostly been Taylor and me throughout the entire process, but when you get to, really spend time with your other actors, I think it's just so much fun, the group of us together. But there was so much pomp within this room. We had about 200 extras, everyone dressed to the nines. And just the act of this cake falling on top of us is just a very bizarre day at work that most people don't get to experience. I'd say also doing the polo was a lot of fun. I love riding, I love horses, and just being able to get back on the literal horse was a lot of fun. And I think whenever you get to learn a new skill for a job and actually do it yourself on camera, it's incredibly gratifying.
How did I prepare to play Alex? I watched a lot of West Wing, like a lot of the West Wing. Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, Sullivan's Travels, Bringing Up Baby. It Happened One Night. A lot of old Hollywood comedies is what I watched, and I mean, the West Wing really puts you in the world, because we're here. We're in the White House right now. Alex has a really big character arc throughout the film. So he starts as a very immature, privileged, chip on his shoulder kind of kid who, is forced to grow up after this cake incident. And it's really nice to watch him grow throughout, the 2 hours or so that we get to watch Henry and Alex be together. So he's gregarious. He's wants to be in politics. He wants to be his mom. He wants to be his dad. He just really wants to prove to the world that he is someone. Alex and Henry start the relationship at this climate conference in the film, and Alex is kind of snubbed by Henry. So Alex has this kind of preconceived notion of him that he's a jerk and he wants nothing to do with him. Whereas Henry had just lost his father and you just didn't want to be in public. So Alex has kind of harbored this resentment toward him. So then when he has to go to the wedding, he doesn't bring his best self. He brings like this 12-year-old version of himself who wants to be in competition with Henry. The cake incident happens, and then he has a strict talking to by his father. So after that, when Alex has to fly back and do damage control, is when their relationship starts, I would say, like the good stuff. Alex realizes that Henry's not this monster that he's thought he was the whole time. Working with Nick has been excellent. We've gone through a lot. We got here a couple weeks early for rehearsals, and it's a very intimate movie, so we had to become close very fast and kind of trust each other right away, and we did. It wasn't hard. It was really just committing to the text and trusting our director Matthew, and it's great working with him because I think we have a really good banter on and off screen, which helps our characters when we are acting together. I mean, but we get in a lot of trouble. Like, we really do. We get yelled at by our first AD, Ben, a lot, and Matthew will tell us to calm down just because as soon as you're out of a scene, you're like critiquing each other, critiquing yourself. And I think we're each other's biggest supports in the room, just because we both care so much. I know he cares, I know I care, and we just want to make the best product possible. Uma's great. She really is. She just has this presence when she walks into the room. I was definitely intimidated when I found out who was playing my mom, just because I am a huge fan, obviously, like, who isn't? And I didn't know what to expect. And I was pleasantly surprised that she came in and she was so lovely and giving and, wants to connect right away. And, like, whether it was with a hug, with just touching my hand, talking briefly, we really had a short period of time that we were able to kind of build that relationship for screen. So we had lunch together, and we just, she's such a professional, and she makes you feel safe. And like, we there's a few scenes where we go like head to head, and she didn't treat me like that younger actor. She really treated me just like, like, I'm here to work, you're here to work, like, let's go. And she did. And like, she would improv at me, and just, when the camera was on me, for her to, get like a different reaction out of me, or like, we would try different stuff throughout. And she's just so skilled on a set. She knows her lenses, she knows her lighting, she knows her marks. Like, she's such a competent actor. We were able to have a couple weeks of rehearsals, and he comes from the theater, and I come from the theater, so that's pretty, I understand it, and I love being able to try it different ways. And before you're on set and everyone's staring at you, and like, is this accurate, is this not accurate, are we in the given circumstances, are we overshooting? So it was a really trusting time, because he told us in the beginning, like, you are in control of your characters and your performance, and he's like, and I am in control of directing you. So it's like, I trust you, and let's always have a conversation if we need to, about something that's not vibing with you, and how you think Alex is, or how you think Henry is. So that was always kind of freeing, to be able to have that conversation. This is an idealistic piece of cinema, and we're seeing two characters in positions of power who have parents who are even have the actual position of power, or in Henry's case, his grandfather. And when you see them accepting these young men as who they are, it's a beautiful thing. And, it starts at the top. And if we can have people at the top of their game, at the top of the world, like literally on top of the world, accepting their family for who they are, it will just be able to trickle down throughout everyone in the world. So I think that's the most exciting part of it. This film is creating a great blueprint for families everywhere, especially because you have the first female president of the United States, who has a Mexican-American father, and then you have Henry's grandfather, who's the King of England. So these are the change makers in the world. These people make law, these people sign bills, and they have the power to make like lasting and real change. This film kind of transcends the coming out story. I think Matthew really focused a lot, and we had lots of conversations about this. It was not focusing on that coming out moment, not calling it that, and just more of having a conversation with those that are near and dear to you. So it's less of an event. And again, like we just start normalizing this in society and like in the home. So it's unique in that way. And I'd also say it's unique because in a lot of LGBTQ plus stories, they're not happy endings. You know, there's usually tragedy involved. And I think that this film kind of subverts that in a way where we think all is lost, but then by the end, we're rooting for these two guys to be together and to be kind of like the poster men for what the world can be.